Folks, welcome to an all new So Bad It's Good. This is your pal Ryan, and this is your Thursday episode. We are doing the Valley recap. Yes, we are going to the sixth circle of hell once again. This is episode 7. Oh man, it is only episode 7. It feels like it's been going on for months and months and months. How are we feeling? Are we doing good? Man, I love that the true villain of the season is turning out to be Daniel Bucco. he's only been made aware of it the last couple of episodes. But think about it. We have Jax Taylor, who's in a mental health rehab facility, whatever, still causing like deep havoc and chaos. We have Jesse Lally kind of guilting us into pseudo feeling bad for him, even though he really does come off as a terror at multiple points. But Michelle is less camera ready in terms of charm that, who knows, it might work. And then this week we have Jason Caperna trying to take a page out of Janet's book and actually kind of confronting Danny with uncomfortable information. And this poor guy, I feel like he's going to break apart. He can barely do it. He comes back and he starts crying to Danny the next day of like, I've been up all night. I can't do it. I can't do it, man. I'm sorry. This is a wild show. We have the first appearance of Lala Kent, and we have our second or third appearance, if you count her Baywatch voice, the voice call, the voice call. It is fun to watch how my memory is slowly sliding away. Voice call. What is the phone call? The phone call about the Baywatch. But it's Scheana's third appearance, Lala's first appearance, and also they are on every episode of the after show on Peacock. So you have their appearances. And this thing is just a mess, top to bottom. Every time I watch The Valley, it really intrigues me because on its face, it's just a reality show. And then you start really thinking about it. And of course, the Vanderpump rules of it all. We talk about that every week, how Vanderpumpers were in their 20s and it's more forgivable. There's a sloppy sexiness to Vanderpump rules. And there was a little bit of, a little vibe of like semi-aspirational of like, hey, I've worked at a bar once. Maybe I could be on television and I could buy a house. And the Valley kind of wrecks all of that because we see like, Jax doesn't even pay for his house. He stopped paying the bills. Half the people are living in apartments. Doute is in a rented house. It shows not the sad reality, but a different reality than we would expect as you get older. On top of, this is what is considered a solid friend group, yet nobody has direct conversations face to face. It's always behind their backs where they're led to a conversation where it's finally face to face. But nobody is going like, hey, Jasmine going directly to Danny and saying like, hey, I know you apologized at the beginning of the season. That's not good enough. It's still haunting me. Instead, we play this round robin game of it going like 7 different ways to get back to Danny. And the whole time Danny's like, yeah, I fucked up. I'm sorry. What can I do? What can I do? And I'm not saying that Danny doesn't have a drinking problem, because obviously a drinking problem, by the way, isn't somebody that drinks every day. That is one form of a drinking problem, but a drinking problem, there's so many different elements to it. Now, if it changes your personality or if you just black out and then your blacked out body grabs people's butts, that is a problem, like hands down. And I think Danny is taking this seriously, but I also think he could probably take it a little bit more seriously. The problem is Danny and Nia are a normal couple in the sense that they do support and love each other. They want the best for each other, and they seem like they work through their painful issues together. So we do know they gone to couples counseling. They have their own separate counselors, and they kind of seem to prefer to keep that behind closed doors, which is a tough place to be when you're on reality TV. And I mean, listen, like we said, Jax is not even here, but his presence is felt all over the place because today we find out in this episode that he has now decided to get a condo next to Tom Schwartz. We're going full circle. Maybe he'll move in with Miami guy again, huh? And this Janet, man. Janet had some talking heads in this where I was like, oh, God. because as a viewer now, we're thinking 10 steps ahead, just like Janet. And you're like, oh, that's not going to hold up well. That's not going to be good. It is this interesting battle. I don't know, battle for what, it's not for supremacy of the Valley, but there seems to be like this Janet Doute thing that's been set up since the first season. They started off as friends years ago, and now that is completely out the window. And I just don't know what the point of the battle is between them. But Janet really, obviously a student of reality television like we all are. So she's smart in that element, but almost sometimes I think she might think she's too smart and she thinks she knows how everything's going to play out. And I sometimes just don't think you've counted the audience into that equation, because the audience, I don't know, it's just such a weird experience watching this, because you're watching people that have been inspired by other reality television shows. And some of that's good because, by the way, I'm on Carlos King's podcast today, Reality with the King. I always love being on that show. He's so good. And he's been a producer on reality TV, so I get to ask him questions. And one of the questions I asked him is that, for Janet, how do you how do you work with Janet? Because, the audience has such an extreme distaste for her. And he was like, yo, Janet is a producer's dream because she's creating storyline. And I know we get frustrated. We're like, don't produce. But she's always doing something. She's coming with strong ideas. But then it's up to the production to kind of even that out, to soften those rough edges, to give us something to humanize Janet. Like, that's why I was like, oh, maybe next week we'll get some stuff with her and her baby, because right now it does seem like she's a little bit of the puppet master in some ways. I mean, I think half of that is correct and half of that is the audience placing that on her. So there's a watchful eye on everything that Janet does. So anyways, we have a lot to get into today, but how are you doing? Are you good? Man, today has just been such a weird day. To be honest with you, I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. I visited my psychiatrist and I'm switching antidepressant medicines. And listen, there's a little bit, and this is so funny because I always talk about like, you don't need to feel shame talking about these things. But even I was like debating talking about this because I was like, I feel a little weird about it. Was that my old medication, it wasn't that it wasn't working. I'd gotten into a little bit of a rut in my head. And so we talked about it and we were switching medications, and I will say I switched, and today has been a really bad day. Like it has been a very just kind of stare at a wall day, and I've been doing so good. So it's a little frustrating, but it's taken me a bit of like a beat to actually be able to, I was about to say stand up to the mic, sit my fat ass down to the mic to do this. And, I know this is part of it, and don't worry, I'm keeping a watchful eye, but I wanted to make you aware just in case I'm extra nonsensical or extra goofy, which extra goofy I think is good. That's what I love, when you could be extra goofy talking about reality TV. Okay, so that's it. But more importantly, don't be afraid to talk about these things. It happens. Life is so hard. Some of us have weird brain chemistry, and also just life can do a number on you. So never be afraid to talk about what is going on with you, okay? Even if you're Jax Taylor or Danny Bucco or really anybody on the cast of The Valley. Okay, so a couple of news stories before we get to the recap. We have our announcement, the Survivor 50, the 50th season of Survivor. They had their cast announcement today. Now, we'll go over the full list on Monday with Sophie, but the one thing that I had heard came to be true is that Mike White, the creator of the television show The White Lotus, is going to be appearing on Survivor 50 as a player. He has already been on a season of Survivor, and he was awesome. But I'm excited to see Mike White, but it's one of those things of like, dude, this guy, I mean, how do you not throw this guy? How do you not extinguish that flame immediately? Because he's rich, and also you want him to get back to making The White Lotus. Like, wait, we're going to have to wait longer? Like, when is Survivor 50? Like, are we going to make sure this next season of The White Lotus is done and then let you go film? Like, I'm sure this is good for his, like, this is probably what he considers a vacation. But like, no, dude, you gotta be writing. And he directed all of The White Lotus. He's like a one-man band. There's no writing team on The White Lotus. It's just him. Okay, here's the other deal I was thinking. Maybe they let him you don't get to like bring a lot of things, but maybe we make an exception for Mike White and he gets to have like a laptop. It's not connected to the internet, but it's just so that he can write the next season of The White Lotus. Anyways, it was a little bit of a disappointing Survivor 50 in terms of who they picked, because how do you represent a show that's been on for 50 seasons or 49 seasons into one season? And they even picked 4 players from season 48 that just ended last week. Like, too soon. Anyways. I was just really excited about the Survivor 50. Also, we had the announcement of the cast of House of Villains. The 3rd season of House of Villains, Tiffany New York Pollard is going to be back. She's been in all 3 seasons now, as of now. And yes, Mr. Tom Sandoval, dude. Tom Sandoval will be on House of Villains this season on Kate Chastain from Below Deck, which, by the way, I don't really consider Kate Chastain a villain. I just consider her wickedly funny, but she's smart as hell. I'm always excited to see Kate Chastain. The other thing is House of Villains is moving for me and is going to be now a Peacock show. So moving for me to Peacock, but you also have cast members from like Big Brother, Survivor. There's a bouillabaisse of reality stars, but those are the ones that I wanted to mention. So Tom Sandoval showing us once again the pipeline after Vanderpump Rules. You've got like the Traders. Some reality stars have Dancing with the Stars. Some people have House of Villains. Why can't we put Lala on House of Villains? Like, she would be good on House of Villains. I consider Lala a villain at this point. And you know, don't worry about Lala in the Valley. I don't think that was a triumphant appearance. Lala did the Lala thing. You know, she immediately, and I think it was very short-sighted that she chewed out Jesse Lally immediately. By the way, that's like a softball. I mean, you know, people should have been doing that already on that cast easily. You can easily clear Jesse at this point just based on his behavior towards Michelle. Even if you like Jesse, that's just the reality of the situation. So that was a softball. But I thought it was short-sighted in a lot of ways because Lala should have held back and not came at him immediately so we could have that scene at another time. Like, don't blow your load immediately. Like, be like Scheana. She jumped into the scene, but she didn't say anything. She just hung back and laughed. So that's, and by the way, I already saw clips from next week's episode, and Scheana's in next week. They had the mid-season trailer for The Valley, and, you know, Scheana was in that a lot as well. But I think it felt like Lala was almost auditioning in a sense for The Valley. It felt like, you know, here's my big musical number, you know, like, do the producers like me? It felt like it was like, this is what I got to offer. You want to get popped? Pop, 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 pop. Anyways. Okay. So House of Villains. And then the other thing, we did the story on the Chrisleys, the, reality star family. The mom and dad are being freed. Mr. Chrisley was freed today. We do not have word about his wife yet, but that should probably be, Julie, it should probably be in the next day or so. But what I didn't get to yesterday, and I meant to, was that guess who this has really upset, you guys? And it's another kind of reality star in a sense, but a reality star from a docuseries. The one and only Tiger King. That's right. Joe Exotic, who is currently serving a sentence in prison right now, is furious. He is voicing his frustration that Trump has pardoned Todd and Julie Chrisley. He said, "You are either rich and connected or you're poor and being trafficked by the system." He did many posts yesterday, which were all uploaded to his Instagram account. Also, that really truly fascinates me. Like, life always finds a way. You know, you're not supposed to have phones or social media and stuff like that, but they all find a way to be posting. Like, have you ever gotten on prison TikTok? There's been a couple of times where I've been privileged where the algorithm has sent me that way. And I am always so impressed. Like, I mean, I got on this one prison TikTok where they were making like breakfast burritos. They had full on cell phones, TVs. They had like iPads. I mean, it was, I was just like, damn, I mean, obviously they're in jail. I'm not an idiot, but it looked good. The breakfast burrito looked amazing. He continued on saying, "I guess being innocent is not enough in America. They all admitted to perjury on world television, but yet I'm left to die of cancer before I can get any help. I don't have $1 million, but I would give it if I could get out to work." He's still insisting that he's completely innocent. He did not hurt anyone and did not pay anyone. And he is saying that the Chrisleys lied on Stan, da 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 da. You know, you don't want to compare yourself to any other reality star. But I guess what do you guys think? Do we just let out reality stars and people involved in TV? Do they get first dibs on release? Should we release the Tiger King? And almost it makes me think of just a horrific reality series that I think would never happen. Yet then again, the world in which it is. I mean, wasn't there some stupid article last week that was it Christy Nome wanted to do a reality show about ICE invasions, like ICE detentions? I mean, that's disgusting, cruel. I mean, that's just cruel. I mean, I can't even believe that was an idea. So, I mean, maybe there is an idea of a world of like a reality show where prisoners compete for a pardon from Trump. I mean, that is something, unfortunately, that I could see happening in the year 2025. But anyways, Tiger King is upset, but Todd and Julie Chrisley will be out. Like I said, Todd is already out, and their daughter, what's her name, Savannah? She was out talking to the press today and saying, will they be back on reality television? Yeah, they will. And they'll be back with Lifetime Television. They have signed a deal with Lifetime Television where they will be doing a docuseries. And, you know, the prison to Lifetime pipeline is very strong right now because they have the Gypsy Rose reality series that just finished its second season. And I loved that. But they literally filmed her coming out of prison for the last, year and a half, 2 years. She now she has a baby already. She has one divorce. She has a new dude that was her old dude from prison. I mean, fascinating reality television series. But now the Chrisleys will be over on Lifetime as well. And in fact, Jax, if he doesn't pay his like mortgages and stuff like that, maybe he'll go to prison and then he'll get pardoned and then we could put him on Lifetime. Just a thought. So a lot of things happening today. Let's get to the Valley, folks. Okay, this is a tradition we are starting to do every Thursday. As we say, the Valley, their theme song, I'm all right. Everything is all right. Which is the most ridiculous thing because nothing is all right over in the Valley. So we have erased that theme song and we are using Raise Your Glass, the Vanderpump Rules theme song for the Valley. So let's listen to this together. Let's get over our bad vibes if we have any, and let's have fun. Feel free to dance. Pull over if you're in a car. Dance with your family and friends. Let's all do this together. Here we go. Okay, folks. This is exciting. Let's talk about our friends at Naked Wines. Now, we are fast approaching summer, and there is nothing that screams summer like a beautiful array of wines. And sometimes you are too busy to go to the grocery store or the wine store to grab them. But with Naked Wines, you can get the most beautiful, pristine selection of wine. You just go to the website, put in all the different types of wine you like to drink, and then they select these kind of amazing wines. Also, what I find it good for is if you're invited to something, and I don't get invited out much, but when I do, you're supposed to bring something. And nothing says you are a great guest if you bring a bottle of wine. So it's always good to have wine on store. It makes you the most interesting person at the party, right? And also, have you ever wanted to learn more about wine, but you couldn't figure out where to start? Or when you do start, it kind of feels like too much. So our next partner, Naked Wines, has changed the game for learning about wine without having to take a whole class about it because boo learning. The podcast, this one, is sponsored by Naked Wines. It's 2025. Do you still shop for wine like it's 2025? Naked Wines is a service that directly connects you to the world's finest independent winemakers so you can get award-winning wine delivered straight to your door. And use our code SOBAD. Listen, this is so great. That should be the product code, but we're doing So Bad because that's the name of the show. So Bad for the code and the password at nakedwines.com. I truly want you to do this. Use code SOBAD for the code and the password, nakedwines.com, and you can get their incredible deal of 6 bottles for just $39.99. I had my last bottle of Naked Wines 2 weeks ago because unfortunately I'm on a cleanse right now. I'd like to be drinking all of the Naked Wines, and it was just an amazing experience. We had a beautiful dinner with it. It was the perfect start to a really nice weekend. So how do they do this amazing deal? Naked Wines connects winemakers and wine drinkers directly, allowing for your vineyard to your door delivery at up to 60% off what you would pay in store. Now, by cutting out the traditional retail middleman costs and markups, winemakers can pass those savings on to you without skimping on quality. I don't know. This is just a really cool service. And when I went to their website, it really does kind of map out everything. And it really does ask, do you like bold flavors? Do you like whites? Do you like reds? I mean, it really is an exciting process. And the best thing is you do not have to spend time in your car to go get this. And it is relatively inexpensive. Naked Wines has been around for 15 years, over 15 years, and funds over 90 independent winemakers around the world. With no commitments or membership fees, you can enjoy Naked Wines hassle-free. And don't forget, you can pause or cancel this at any time, so just because you've got a trip coming up doesn't mean you can't enjoy Naked Wines before or after that much needed vacation. So this is the big one. Pay attention. Now is the time to join the Naked Wines community. Head to nakedwines.com/so-bad. Click enter voucher and put in my code, Ryan Bailey's code, so bad, for both the code and password for 6 bottles of wine for just $39.99 with shipping included. My God, shipping included? So that's $100 off your first 6 bottles of wine at nakedwines.com/so bad, and use the code and password so bad for 6 bottles of wine at $39.99. Whew, do this, folks. I'm telling you, this is a good deal. Oh my God, I gotta stop. I wonder how many steps I just did with my hands. That's amazing. Remember that last season of Vanderpump Rules, the teaser trailer, where they slowed down? They're like, this one. They slowed it down and it was like ballady piano music because like the intense season after Sandoval. God, I love that. More show. And by the way, Bravo should throw more full theme songs like that. Like we really, as a Bravo fan base, we should really encourage Bravo to invest more in theme songs. So I feel like it truly is a lost art. This is season 2, episode 7. It is called Ring Around the Rumor. Woo! And obviously that is because one of the storylines is that Doute floats a rumor that she heard from Jasmine that Jason Caperna does not wear his wedding ring sometimes. She has been sitting on this little juicy piece of gossip for like over a year. The description the cable company gives us says Jason confronts Danny about his drinking as Danny looks to make amends with Jasmine and Melissa. Sounds fun. Let's dive in. So we open up with Jasmine and her girlfriend driving to LAX, which, by the way, that really is true friendship, driving from the Valley or even West Hollywood to LAX. I mean, you're looking at an hour right there, and they're driving to pick Zach up because he was just on a trip with his now boyfriend. I mean, it's murky what we call them, but anyways, they're going to pick him up, and they're talking about the Danny situation once again, and, you know, saying something still doesn't sit right with Jasmine. And Jasmine says, even when he apologized at the white party, which was the first episode of the season, he was like, oh, you're bringing this up now? And she's like, I can bring this up every day until I die. But what I think Danny meant by that, you're bringing this up now when cameras are on. And that's one of these things that I think the cast, especially people that aren't reality veterans, are surprised by, is that these are all conversations, if you're in a friend group, that you would have away from cameras potentially. You know, like the fact that, I mean, and by the way, this is what they're paid for. They're daredevils of cinema. Is, you know, there is this potential of like, oh, we let the world know. So there's got to be this like layer of uncomfortability for everybody involved. But I mean, that might be what Danny meant by that. I mean, listen, Danny apologizes again in this episode. Hopefully, by the way, I think Jasmine has every right to feel these feelings, but I do wonder if we're going to keep exhausting this and how many more times throughout the rest of the season he's going to apologize, because even in the mid-season trailer, there is seemingly a reference to this as well. You know, I mean, it is that kind of question that I was pondering all week, is that do we live in a society that actually genuinely forgives anybody? You know, like, do we actually forgive? And Danny did this thing. He seems like he's obviously sorry about it. Nia seems like she rakes him over the coals, doing therapy, all of that stuff. So at a certain point, especially if you are forced to be in filming situations, are you able to let go and continue on? Because the other question is, will the valley burn so bright that it will burn itself out? How do we keep this show going? Because if you are this gnarly with people in their late 30s, conventional wisdom would say you just wouldn't be around them at all. I mean, that's one of the privileges of getting older is that you do get to a place where you absolutely can choose who you want to spend your time with. And if somebody is not doing it for your life, you do not need to have them in your life. It sounds brutal, but that's the truth. When you're younger, you feel like so much pressure to be so many things to everybody. And you're so wanting everything to work out. And then I think you kind of lose that as you get older. Also do a flashback to that white party where we see a little bit more of the conversation. And Danny says, listen, I was sick for 3 weeks. I was on antibiotics. I don't even remember going there. I don't even remember leaving. I was like, dude, you might have a bigger problem than that. Like, you don't remember anything. I mean, obviously, when you start blaming it on antibiotics, we're getting into dicey territory. But yeah, that's a huge problem if you just do not remember at all. Anyways, they pick Zach up, and Zach, by the way, Zach only has a backpack. You had you took a road trip, he says, from Kentucky to Texas, and he has just this little JanSport backpack. Are you kidding me? Anyways, he said he had to talk to his on-again, off-again boyfriend, Benji, about where their relationship is and where it is going. And remember that Benji was still married when they met, right? So Benji met Zach's parents. Melissa says, the real question is, do you guys have a title now? And Zach says, we are officially boyfriends. They are boyfriends. Zach says they never hard launched each other on Instagram because neither of us knew if that's what they wanted. And he's still married, Zach points out again. So he says that Benji was with his ex for 10 years. And for the past 2 years, they have been completely separated, right? According to Zach. Zach says, I don't think his husband knows about me, but he about to, Zach says. And he also says he's prettier than his husband and younger. Oh my God, what a mess. Can you imagine being this Benji guy's ex-husband or husband still and then going, holy shit, am I a part of the Valley? I mean, that's the other thing you got to think about. That's the thing that scares the bejesus out of me. Like, how low are we going to go on this show? I just kept thinking, like, is like one wrong move? Are we going to get Janet's ex-husband from Ohio on the show? Is it going to be like Miami Girl, but it's going to be Ohio guy? You know, and they just go to Janet's place of business. I don't know what but you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, how low are we going to go? And like, at this point, everybody has so many exes because, you know, they're of a certain age where I'm like, is it cool to be bringing everybody up? Like, are these just like part of the Valley cinematic universe, just that we never see them? Or will we eventually see everybody that's mentioned? Okay, so now we cut to a scene with Michelle and Nia, and their children, Isabella and Asher, have a play date at this kids play thing called Say Cheese. So, Asher and his mom, Nia, get in the door and they're like, there's Isabella. And Isabella's like, what up, Asher? What's going on? Let's play. Oh, there's a ball pit over here. So now it's this girl scene while the kids play. And Nia's like, how did last night go? I had to go home and I couldn't stay. And what she's referring to is the dinner over at Brittany's where Nia came, explained like her situation when she was younger and asked that people like kind of not speak behind her back and about her husband. And then she left and everybody completely seemed like they shit talked her. So she's asking about that night, right? And so Nia's like, what happened after I left? And Michelle's like, you're a disaster. You're a disaster, Jesse. No, she just kind of laughs. And we flash back to that night where Jasmine, after Nia left, goes, I'm sorry. If you show up at Jax's bar with a fucking jacket on, no costume, and start grabbing people's ass and telling me to call you daddy, you got a problem. And she says she wants to move past it, but maybe she is not over it, she says. And so Michelle goes, the only thing is Jasmine got super, super emotional and she cried a lot. And she was like, I felt triggered and I felt a certain way. Which, by the way, I feel like Michelle is sanitizing that story. Nia's like, well, I knew they had a conversation at the white party. He said that he apologized from like the bottom of his heart, but I can't speak for him. I just know what I heard, but I can't be like, he said this because I wasn't in the conversation. I gotta say, man, listen, Nia seems like she handles herself very well. Like, once again, of like, well, I can't speak for my husband, but this is what he told me. Like, this is a perfect way to communicate of like, listen, I cannot speak for this man, but this is what he has told me. This has to be a him thing, right? Nia says she hopes that Jasmine and Daniel can meet up and talk everything out that needs to be talked out. Once again, great. She wants things to work. And Danny also seems like somebody that wants to make things right. And that's sometimes rough in reality television when you're like, I just want to try to like fix the conflict, when you're like, no, the conflict is what the show is. Also, I will say they're playing with some sort of like Play-Doh or blue clay or something. I'm not even like, I'm obviously a very dirty person, and I even got skeeved out. I'm like, there's a lot of germs. They're all just touching it with their grubby hands. Anyways, they're like, let's do this sand table. And Isabella's like, I love the sand table. Yeah. And Nia's like, how are things going with all the like Jesse craziness, Michelle? And Michelle's like, I don't even comprehend or thinks that what he's doing also affects me in my relationship. And we see that Isabella is like laser focused on this conversation of like, oh my God, she's talking about my dad. She's like, Jesse's always like, my mental health. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything to you. And he is like, narcissist, right? Do we really? I mean, narcissist, what a comeback that word has made in the last 8 years. And I really attribute that to reality television. I mean, if Bravo could get residuals from the word narcissist, they'd be the biggest network ever. Michelle goes, hopefully nothing else happens because I can't take it anymore. He's a disaster. And then she's like, Isabella was telling me the other day. And she's like, I know you were married, Mommy, and I know that it didn't work out, but that's okay. She's like, Mommy, if you want to get married to Aaron, Jesse has to go. And I was like, we'll talk then, but it's not happening yet. And Isabella's like, yeah, you make it happen. I get a +1 and it's going to be Daddy. He's coming. I wonder if Jesse's like, Isabella, when you go out today, make sure I get an invite to that wedding. That's your one job today, Isabella. Anyways, they're giggling about this as the kids seem, I was trying to think about that too, is that obviously this is what parents do. They have real life conversations. And I mean, to tell you the truth, I was trying to remember any intense conversations I was around as a kid, because I'm sure there were plenty, and I was racking my brain. I mean, it was really hard for me to come up with. Do you guys remember a lot of your the conversations that your parents had around you, thinking that you weren't listening? For me, I don't. Anyway, she says she wants to get married again one day, and that she hopes that I hope it'll be Aaron and I. Aaron. Great stuff. So the next scene, we have Jason, we have Danny, and we have Luke. And they're at this burger place called Heavy Handed. And I've been to this place. It is right at Laurel Canyon and Ventura Boulevard. It's so funny. I've lived in Los Angeles long enough where I've seen this place like turn over like from 2 other restaurants. And now it's like this burger place, and it is a fantastic burger. But when I went there, I got chopped chilies in it. And you guys, I had the worst indigestion. Like this, guys, this is boots on the ground. I had the worst indigestion for like a day. Like those chopped chili burps, they are the worst. Yeah, just get a clear picture in your head. A lot of chopped chilies. Get them on the side if you go there, but they're really good. Anyways, they all sit out there with their burgers and their drinks, their bevies. And Danny's like, the past few months, I've just been like exhausted. And Luke and Jason are the two that seem to be warming up to the reality cameras. They're not fighting the process, but you can tell there's a little bit of uncomfortability about it as well. And Luke's like, well, your exhaustion seemed to cause a bit of hubbub, huh? And Danny's like, apparently. And they cut to Danny snoring because, he tied one on and he was sleeping it off. And the whole table were pissed about it. They thought Danny should be out there, right? And that Nia was covering up for Danny. And Jasmine was especially upset. And then Brittany was upset, going, I'm going through so much. My husband's in rehab. Danny in this scene goes, apparently it wasn't really about me. And then Jason soft launches his first ever pseudo attack on reality television. He says, well, Janet told me about a situation where she was in the pantry and you went in the pantry and grabbed the bottle of tequila. Well, by the way, you know what? Whatever you want to say about Janet, what we can all say is narc. We've got a narc on our hands. Geez, narc much? No. He's like, you grabbed the bottle of tequila and like closed the door and like chugged it and left. I love the fact. Now, that would have been insane if he chugged the literal entire bottle of tequila. But he continues. He says, I know Janet felt a little uncomfortable in that moment. Like if Nia was in the pantry and I went in and shut the door and took a swig of tequila, I feel like she'd be thinking, what is he hiding? You know what I mean? From who? And why do we have this secret now? We flash back once again to Danny entering the closet, which we've seen this little clip 10 times now. But Jason's like, you just made Janet feel pretty uncomfortable. Did you? Or did you give Janet ammunition and so there was a secret excitement? Like, honestly, because on this show, information is currency. So in a sense, you know, and especially if we're looking for storylines, that's like another softball. You're giving ammunition to somebody. But obviously, Jason has had many conversations with Janet. And I mean, listen, it is fun to think about Janet prepping Jason for this conversation of like, you're going to go in there and what you're going to say is that it's uncomfortable, right? You sneak in a butt. Like, you know, I don't think that conversation probably happened. I do think conversations happened about the scenarios, but I don't think they are rehearsing scenes. But listen, they are husband and wife. You are going to pick up on those social cues from each other, but it is fun to think about. Anyways, Danny hears this and he goes, okay. And talking head, he goes, I went to get a White Claw. It's also where the bottles of tequila were. People had been taking swigs of tequila. In my mind, there was absolutely nothing wrong with this. And then we flash back to last week when Nia was talking to Danny at the end of the episode going, Janet said that when you had the tequila with like the door closed, like you were hiding it. And she was like, I don't want to be on any secret. And I was like, Daniel woke up. No, honey, don't laugh. I want you to take this seriously. If you close the door, that looks like it's hiding. Everybody drink their tequila freely in public. No hiding of drinking of tequila. But Danny's like, I just wanted to have a little fun. It was not a big deal. I don't have a problem. Nothing more than anyone else was doing. I do want to tell, like, come on, you know Brittany was doing shots of tequila. Probably not hiding it. She was probably like, who want to do a shot with me? Come on. Party time. We don't have our kids. But Danny tells Jason, I was not drunk. I did not get drunk. And Jason goes, wait, you were drunk enough, Danny. You know, you couldn't make dinner, dude. I had a shot and a White Claw, Jason. I was going to take a nap regardless. And Jason's like, you chugged the bottle in a closed pantry door. I didn't chug a bottle. I took a swig out of a bottle. And he's like, okay, you took a swig out of a bottle. Exactly. And Danny goes, exactly. And I talking to Danny goes, what in the mother is going on here? In Santa Barbara, he had said, dude, it was no big deal. And we flash back to a scene we didn't see where later that night, after all this went down, Jason's in the jacuzzi, Danny's talking, and Jason's saying, yeah, if Janet got wasted and passed out, I wouldn't be like, oh, Janet's wasted and passed out. I'd probably be like, Janet's sleeping. I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal. And Danny, rightfully so, in his talking head goes, and now you're coming at me and making it a huge deal. Maybe Jason was a little drunk and forgot the jacuzzi scene where he said it wasn't a big deal. Who knows? But obviously something happened from that moment to this moment where it is turned into a big deal. And obviously because his wife said she was uncomfortable, right? And Danny says, is this Jason or Janet? And at this moment, I shit you not, guys, if you haven't seen this, it's you. Jason rips off his face and it's one of those Mission Impossible masks and it's actually Janet. No, it's Jason, but Janet is speaking through him. Jason says, well, I thought you were going to take a little bit more like, shit, I messed up. But since that isn't the case, then I feel like, I don't know. Then it makes me feel like there is something bigger going on. This guy's got a tequila closed pantry closet problem. Luke, by the way, is just sitting there. Luke is just taking it all. I mean, I would give anything for Luke's inner monologue. He's just like, burger good, Miss Colorado. I love Kristen. I'm going to be a father. No, I just wonder. Anyways, Luke does jump in finally. He goes, well, I heard Danny say he asked me to wake him up an hour that night. And I also heard Nia at dinner say I want to let him sleep. I'm saying that she made that call and it's come back on her looking like she's hiding something. And Danny's like, I told you. I woke up and I was pissed. I was mad I missed dinner. I love carbs. And Jason goes, this is where Jason starts to like kind of lose a little bit of the self-assuredness. He's like, yeah. And then Jasmine felt triggered by the fact that the last time she saw you in that state, like being very drunk, things happened. It's like a little PTSD from Halloween. Do you know? And he goes, do you know what I'm talking about? Danny, do you know what I'm talking about? And Danny's looking like, what? And he's like, you apologize for it. And he's like, yeah, exactly. Like, and Jason goes, she still feels a certain way about it though. In a talking head, Jason says, Jasmine's been a good friend of mine and Janet for years now. And when somebody does something wrong to her, I really do feel like it is sort of like the lawyer in me who wants to sort of go out of my way to try to protect her as much as I can. And Danny goes, well, I had no idea. You're now telling me this. I'll have another conversation. In a talking head, Danny says, to be honest, I dealt for a while with shame and disappointment in myself. I don't treat women like that. I don't treat people like that. And the way I was raised, if you hurt someone, you apologize. Now, Jason says in the scene, I still don't feel like you took full responsibility 100%. You're going to, which is great. And Danny goes, about what? Well, I just think the connection, Danny, is very apparent between, what do you mean, Jason? What do you, it goes with Jasmine. You have to do more. Now he's completely flustered. You have to do the more apologies to Jasmine. Satisfy. And Danny's like, you're not making sense right now. I'm not. And then they're like, then Jason's like, well, I'm trying. Can I talk? Can I talk for a second? Come on. Luke's still quiet as a church mouse. And Jason's trying to talk. And he's like, can I talk? You can't. Stop interrupting me. Shut your mouth. You just said you know that you have to do more when I have. I've gone to Jasmine numerous times and apologized. I have 3 under 2. I'm going to do it again. In a talking head, he's like, where is all this attacking coming from? I feel like there's a target on my back. And it's making me question if we should have sent Jax to rehab after all. It's coming on me now. No, he said it's making me question his friendship with Jason. Danny tells him, I just don't understand why you are coming at me, implying that I have a drinking problem. That's just not cool, man. And Jason goes, I disagree. And Luke says, nothing. And then Danny goes, says the lawyer. It's an interesting conversation though, right? Because there is a problem, but it is one of those things if you are working on said problem. And once again, of Jason being the messenger of Danny's like, well, I did apologize. I did reach out. I did do those things. Well, you need to do it more. And he had no idea. Now, he could have taken this as a friendly piece of advice from Jason, but he is defensive about it. The other thing that I kept thinking about was, does Jason have these hard conversations with Jax? Because Jax admittedly has a problem. He has now admitted it himself. How many times has Jason, and probably there might be thousands, but has Jason had these tough conversations with Jax, and how do those go? Because that's what I would be curious at. Like, this dude actually has an admitted problem, and you've seen, I mean, like the Danny thing, that's horrific. But what Jax has done, I mean, horror on top of horror over the last 13 years. Those are the conversations that I'm truly curious if Jason has. So Danny's like, says the lawyer, not a friend. And that scene ends. And now we have somber music as we come back from commercial. And I'm like, uh-oh, something, they're trying to make us feel sad already with the leading music. And all of a sudden we get the Blair Witch camera and it's Jax Taylor in his Jax's Studio City hat. He's looking, tired, a little beat up, and he's like, it's a special day for me today because I get to see my son. And he starts tearing up immediately. He's like, I'm going to cry. And it's day 17 of treatment, the Chiron reads. And he says, I haven't seen my little boy. I don't know. Long time. And it's just a really, really good day, he says. And he covers his face emotionally and he starts sniffling. and crying. And he says he misses his son so much, which I totally believe. He says that his son is his life. He says he's ecstatic. He couldn't sleep last night because I know I get to see him in an hour, and I know it's not for a long time, but at least I get to see him for a little bit, he says. I don't know if I get to see Brittany, that fucking tree trunk. I hope so. I have so many things I want to say to her. I have so many things I want to blame on her. No, he just says so many things I want to say to her. I want to apologize. Now, I will say, did anybody catch this? Like, I'm looking at the frame right now, and this is just like, I don't think, but it's just like uncanny of like, oh man, there truly is like a white something on the tip of like underneath the tip of Jax's nose, where I was like, oh man, that's bad luck, man. That looks like Coke. Like, and I know it's not. I know that like, but there is like, you can clearly see the like something white, and I'm like, is that just? I mean, is it just the Coke working its way out through Jax's system? Like what? But there is legitimately, and it kind of pops up a couple of times in this Blair Witch talking head thing. But I was just like, oh man, bad luck there. I can't be the only one that noticed this. But he says, I know, apologize to Brittany, or it's kind of empty unless you show action. And I'm not prepared to do that. No, he goes, it's been very eye-opening in here. I can't tell you how much weight has been lifted off my shoulders because I haven't been paying rent for the last 3 months on my mortgage. No, he said, this is the first time in my 45 years of life that I really just opened up and allowed people to, help me out. And I just allowed myself to be vulnerable. And he goes, I feel like I can sleep at night now because I've had so much weight on my shoulders because of Brittany. It's so heavy. No, but I love it. It's weird. He contradicts himself in the talking head because earlier he was like, I didn't sleep at all last night. So much on my mind. And then he's like, for the first time in 45 years, I can sleep. Good night's sleep. And I'm like, which is it, man? Also, I would imagine that, don't you think that Jax probably charmed the pants off? That's probably a bad phrase there, but charmed the people that worked there. It seems like he got a lot of extra privileges. Like he was able to tool around town, go back to his house, go to a park, like go to work out. It seemed like I don't know how these facilities work, but it seems like it was very loose for Jax. But he said he had so much weight on his shoulders for so effing long, and he's crying throughout this, and he keeps rubbing his eyes, and a very special episode of The Valley. So now it's 2 hours later since Jax did that video. I don't know why we need that information, but Brittany is with her mom. Her mom came into town to help with Cruise and is staying there for the entire month so I can go out with my friends and forget about my horrible life, she says. So they're talking, and they're also preparing for an adult kids party. So it's a kids party theme, but for adults. And she's having friends over, and her mom is going to babysit Isabella and Cruz. Yeah, I'm having Brittany's mom babysit me. Hell yeah. Brittany is trying on this shark fin, for the party. And they're like, oh my God. And the mom's like, oh my God. Yeah, that's awesome. We're having a shark party at the rental house. So my mom and Janet's mom are going to be at my house watching the kids so we can have fun and party and not worry about anything. So I can do shots, not in a pantry. Also, this is great. Did you see this headline this week that Brittany is dating somebody again? I don't think it's alleged. I think it's, is this guy she's dating. It's Will Gittens, Gittens. And he is a Grammy Award winning singer-songwriter. He is originally from Trinidad, and he lives in Nashville, Tennessee, but now he's moved to California. His Instagram bio hints at his current sunny California lifestyle, OK Magazine reports. But he's not just a pretty face. He's a Grammy-winning songwriter. His impressive resume includes co-writing credits for Chris Brown's hit song Views, OK, and which won the Grammy for Best R&B Album in February. And so Cartwright has supported Gittens' musical endeavors and often likes his Instagram. It's weird if they met on Instagram. It's very Morgan Wade and Kyle Richards. But Brittany likes his posts, but rarely comments. In April, he performed a sold out show in Los Angeles, which his mother and sister attended. Cartwright made an appearance in a video shared by JB Entertainment, where she was spotted enjoying the concert alongside her best friend, Zach Wickham. So maybe this is Brittany's new dude. He's like a buff dude. She actually, and then she did post something on her Instagram where she was in the gym and her body was covering up a man's body, and this might be Will. So get some, Brittany. Hell yeah. Her mom tells Brittany about the shark fin. Like, sharks were always your favorite. You loved Shark Week. And she's like, yeah, sharks are my favorite animal, which is weird. Like when you're like, oh, is that, can we like tie that in with Jax somehow? And then Doute and Luke come over and they sit down and Brittany's like, you know, I told you guys that I was going to let Jax see Cruz today and we were going to meet at the park. In a talking head, Brittany goes, today I thought I would be nice and let Jax see Cruz. My nanny actually dropped Cruz off first, so they had like 30 minutes without me being there. And then Jax wanted me to come so that we could talk with the therapist. And it just did not go well at all. And the mom's like, I could tell by her face the moment she walked in the door, it did not go well. It did not go good. I love that Cruz is in the background of this scene, just throwing himself like on couches and like on the floor. Brittany's like, well, I'm at home with mom and I look up and our cameras aren't covered anymore. I didn't realize because he came to the house a couple days ago and got more stuff. Like, so this, I love that Jax is slowly moving in stuff from his house to the mental health facility. So he came back, got more stuff. And whenever we left the house, he took off the covers off the cameras that he put up in the first place. And Doute's like, what? Doute's activated. He had taped cards over our cameras in the house so that he could hide girls from me. Because it was our real rule that he wasn't allowed to bring girls at our house. And Doute's like, he was spying on you with your own surveillance cameras. And Brittany's like, oh, I covered them all today. You know, I was texting me saying, I know that you're wearing ripped pants and a red shirt. And Doute's like, I have eyes and ears everywhere. And Brittany's like, he wants me to feel like he has people watching me. Like from rehab. The only person I'm like, is this poor Jason Caperna, the spy? Like, Jason's always running errands for everybody. As Jason's like, sorry, Brittany, Jax has me spying on you for this next week, even though I have a full job as a lawyer. But I guess this takes precedence. Like, who is spying for? Like, can you? Is this like? Is this something you can like rent out to like a service to like? It's. I mean. It's not funny. Like I'm laughing, but it's like creepy as hell of like, I know what you're wearing. You're wearing ripped jeans right now. I can see it on the cameras. He's doing this all from rehab. My God. Brittany goes, how does he have his phone so much? How is he able in between 7 hours of therapy to text me this much? Like, focus on why you are there. And Luke just goes psychotic. Yeah. Like, you're not learning anything. Take it seriously. Brittany goes, and then at the very end of our talk, Jax was like, I want us to start fresh and start like dating each other again and try to like get back to how we used to be, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, so I don't really think it'd be a good idea for me to go back to the house. And I was like, okay, but I have a 3-month lease already signed and I've already paid for it up front. And he was like, well, I already signed a lease to a condo. And Doute's like, zoinks, what? He's moving in next door to Tom Schwartz. In a talking head, Brittany goes, it's like he's going back to his party days and wants to relive those pre-Brittany days. And I think it's sad. You're a father and you're 45 years old. He is a terrible human being. And I'm seeing him for who he really is, finally. Everybody literally has warned me again and again, but finally, I do not want him to get out. I wish he was in actual jail and didn't have a phone and wouldn't get pardoned by Trump. And if he did, somebody had to shove it up their butthole for him to get it. Woo! Brittany is on fire. I'm going to tell it how it is. But yeah, man, that's like, I love Jax's logic of like, I want to get back together with you, but I realize I can't do that with you. I'm going to have to get another place. And by the way, the after show is 36 minutes long. I'll be doing a whole recap of it on Friday on the Patreon. Those are so fun, but they go into such detail about the finances. And he stopped paying rent he stopped paying rent when he went into his mortgage. He stopped paying when he went into the facility. It's like $14,000 a month. And now he has penalties on that. And I just love that logic of Jax of like, well, the mortgage people know I'm in rehab, so I think they're cool with it. This takes precedence, right? Like that is wild. But it's also wild that Brittany had no idea about their finances to the point where Brittany's name is on that house. She had no idea he wasn't paying it. And also, this poor Tom Schwartz, like his lot in life is now just to be the backup for troubled men. It's like Sandoval 1 year and now it's to Jax. I mean, this dude must be so flippin' frazzled. The dude's got problems of his own and he is like, do you think Schwartz is like, I don't know if there is room in our condo. It's pretty full right now, dude. Like, do you think Schwartz was like gung-ho on this or kind of like, maybe we sit this one out. Like there are great other places in the valley. Now we have a scene with Danny meeting up with Jasmine and her girlfriend, Melissa, I think. And Danny's going to apologize again. They're meeting at a brewery. Like, I'm like, if the issue is around drinking, why have it at a brewery? Couldn't we do it like a pottery barn or something? But Danny sits him down. He's like, obviously, I love it. He buys him drinks. He's like, let Danny get you a drink, right? Obviously, I apologize to you. The worst night of my life, Halloween at Jax's. And, as soon as I found out, Jason said that you still seem to have some, unsettling kind of feelings. So I want to be here. And Jasmine says, well, I think what was bringing up feelings for me is being in a relationship with a woman. Things that happen to us is like pushed away like it's not a big deal. And I think it just like triggered me because on the daily, I have to like defend our relationship. Like anytime we go out, we go to a bar and guys are like, kiss her, make sure it's real. And I'm like, okay, just because I don't have a ring doesn't mean our relationship is like not valid or doesn't matter, In a talking head, she says, for a friend, I mean, to see him act this way kind of triggers me in a way because I've cut off friends in the past who have done this. I'm like, this is Danny, somebody who I think is like a great, great friend, but like I need him to understand truly how I felt and how this happens on the daily to me and Melissa. And Melissa says, if I was a guy or if you were a guy, how would this situation unfold? And it probably would have unfolded a little bit more seriously just because, unfortunately, that's just how things are. And Jasmine tears up and says, it just sucks talking about it. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about defending your relationship or respect. You shouldn't have to. And Danny says, yeah, obviously it'll never happen again. He says, I'm sorry. And I think this is good. This is what you want to see. And I really loved hearing Jasmine's perspective on something that I don't have a lot of knowledge about, right? Jasmine in a talking head says, I don't need another apology. I just need for him to understand how this made me feel. And if he wants to be a friend in my life. I swear to you, if I was Jason and he did this to Janet, oh my God, somebody would be locked up. That's a great point. Like, think about that. Jasmine says, I've dated men too, and I never had issues when I was dating a man. And I think maybe because you're my friend, I took that like, okay, he's my friend. Maybe he's just not aware of like how that can affect, me and this. And Danny just keeps going, oh yeah, I didn't think of it like that. Glad you brought it up like that. And, you guys have to constantly, he's so uncomfortable. It's like Jason in that last scene. He's just very uncomfortable. And by the way, facing what he did, that is uncomfortable. But he says in a talking head, I didn't really put myself in their shoes and I would never objectify them in a way that they were maybe triggered by that made me feel horrible, he says. Jasmine says, I think we're good. I'm just happy that we got that out. Now, it is interesting with Jasmine and Danny, two things that people have been talking about is Jasmine, obviously, she's a reality show veteran. She was on Nick Vile's season of The Bachelor. She was also on Bachelor in Paradise. She was on the MTV show, was it X Factor? X on the Beach. She was on that show and a Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders CMT reality show. So Jasmine has been around reality TV show cameras, which I always find interesting. I think she was also very close to being on one season of Vanderpump Rules that didn't end up happening. And Danny comes from a very strong religious background. Now, his parents are both pastors at this Riverside church. And I saw this on their website, and it's like meet Pastor Paul and Bonnie Bucco. And they're the lead pastors of Riverside Church. And Paul, Danny's father, is the son of founding pastor John Bucco Sr. So this is their church. And they say they have a genuine passion for reaching the lost with the life-changing message of the gospel, along with creative elements that equip believers to make a difference. They are passionate about their community and have dedicated the last 40 years to serving its members by pointing people vertically to God by any means possible. I am seeing a future Jax storyline there, but I thought that was interesting as well, of how his family is potentially responding to seeing the storylines that Danny is receiving, or Danny is, causing by his own behavior on the Valley. So we move on to a scene with Doute, Jesse Lally, and Luke. They're at this waffle place. I love it. Doute starts the scene with going, "I'm sweaty." What a reality star, man. I'm sweaty. Anyways, Jesse's like, "I am not caught up on anything. I have not heard anything about anything from anyone." And Luke is like, "Okay, well, to put it simply, people are kind of unreasonably upset about Danny not being at dinner. And I had an early dinner with Jason and Danny yesterday. And Doute is doing some amazing straw work with her drink. She's just sucking on the straw, and her eyes are just, love active listening Doute with a saw strip. And he's like, "Yeah, I had an early dinner with Danny and Jason." And what he kept bringing up was like how Danny should feel worse about missing dinner. And then Kristen just goes, "Jason sucks." I feel like there should be a belch there. "Jason sucks." Blech. "He's on my shit list now," Doute says. "You've unlocked the Doute." Luke goes, "Yeah, I couldn't fully grasp why he was so worked up, because I don't know how it directly affects him." And Doute's like, "What the hell does Jason give a shit what Danny does? Jason's in no space to be judging anyone's relationship." And there was the ellipses. He's in no space. And in that ellipses where I was like, what does Doute have cooked up? What has she got up her Doute sleeve? And then Doute goes, "Keep your wedding ring on all the time, and then you can start talking." And she immediately goes back to sucking the straw again. What does she mean? And Doute's like, "Literally every single person in our group and adjacent to our group has been talking about for a year that when Jason goes out, that he takes his wedding ring off." In a talking head, Doute goes, "I heard this rumor from Zach." Like, oh my God, the telephone of the rumors is amazing. It was then confirmed from Jasmine. That's how a lot of my information comes. If you remember last year, Doute laughs. And we flash back to Janet at the table last year going, "Kristen decided at Michelle's to say that I said Michelle was racist." And Doute's like, "It came from Zach." And Zach's like, "Zoinks." Doute in the talking head laughs like, "It's just a cute little thing I do." And then Jesse's like, "Is there any rumors of him cheating?" And Doute's like, "No, I have not heard anything. No, I've kept my ear to the ground. I've not heard a thing. No." And Luke's looking at Doute uncomfortable, but also like, "God damn it, I love you. I want to throw you down on this waffle table right now." And Jesse's like, "I mean, it could be this venomous rumor, or he could just not want to lose his ring and put it in his pocket when he goes out." Yes, the old "don't lose the ring that's attached to your finger, so I'll keep it in my pocket." But Jesse goes, "Either way, it's not anyone's business to get involved. It's not like we're on a reality show here." In a talking head, Jesse says, "It's not." He's talking head. He goes, "My thoughts on the ring rumor? I think it's fucking stupid." I love how he always crosses his legs in the talking head. It's very elitist. He's like, "I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't wear my ring to the gym. I didn't wear it to go to the grocery store. I didn't wear it when I was cheating on Michelle. Anyone could have seen me out without my ring on. Who gives a shit?" He tells Doute and Luke, "I think we've got a lot of rumors that we've been flying around." And Doute goes, "The only reason I brought it up is because they are being so incredibly judgmental and mean to Danny and Nia. So that is where I get really pissed off. Doute needs justice." Luke in a talking head goes, "Kristen brought up something she never should have brought up, and it will just cause unnecessary drama. There's enough of that going around. Do we need to create more?" The producers are like, "Shut the fuck up, Luke." Jesse goes, "Hey, as long as you guys don't talk about Michelle and I don't give a shit." And Doute goes, "Fuck with me all you want. You fuck with my friends and family, I'm going to take you down. I'm going to take you down to Chinatown. Mama Bear's coming out to play." That's what she literally says. Mama Bear's coming out to play. And she starts doing like hand stretches. She's warming up. Mama Bear is coming out, you guys. We go over to Brittany's pad. We see shark floaties everywhere. We see a nice charcutes. Great charcuterie board set up. A lot of purples and blues. Michelle's coming over. The gang is getting this party started. So this is when we get our first appearance of Lala. Scheana's there. The gang's all here. Luke is very fashion. We've seen Luke's wardrobe really get updated in the last year. I always think that Luke back in the day probably would have been a great subject on Queer Eye for the Straight Guy because he was kind of a mountain man. We see that Zach has spray painted on abs and he talks about his love of having spray painted abs on, and we see multiple different costumes. Jason Caperna in a talking head says, I'm very nervous to see Danny at Brittany's party because I was probably a little too hard on him. So Jason feeling the sting. Jason says, not everybody's ready for advice. Maybe I just, at a certain point, need to let people make their own mistakes and do whatever they want to do. Yeah, I mean, in a sense, sure, right? So the girls are all talking, and Lala, Scheana, and Michelle are talking, and Michelle's like, you heard about Santa Barbara? And Lala's like, yeah, Janet told me about Santa Barbara. You want to get popped, Jesse? And Lala's like, how was it for you, Michelle? And she's like, did you hear what he called me? No, what did he call you? He just snapped and he said, you're a fucking whore. And Lala's like, what? And a slut. Was he? And Michelle's like, super drunk, yeah. And Lala's like, why does he look the way his personality is? And Jesse comes in and he is like, you know, I know what Lala means. And Lala's like, he walks in like such a dick, right? It is kind of like the male version of Lala in some ways. But Lala's like, I'm sorry you have to deal with that, right? Jesse walks up to the gang and says, hey. Michelle in the conversation still says, I always let him walk all over me. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're a disaster. You crossed the line. There's no coming back. And Jasmine and her girlfriend are asking Jesse how he feels after Santa Barbara. And Jesse's like, not great. You know, we have a way of triggering each other. And Jasmine's like, do you think you're still into her, though? And he's like, into Michelle? Ooh, gross. Not at all. Not even a little bit. I cannot get any chub down there. No. Jasmine says, I think that's straight BS in a talking head. Sometimes anger is a mask for pain, and I still think Jesse still has, you know, some pain there. Like, come on, we've all been there. And Melissa says, maybe you both are not meant to fix things and be friends right now. We cut back to Lala, and Lala's giving her advice. She knows everything. And Lala's like, soon you'll become numb to it. And Michelle's like, I'm starting to get there. I'm starting to get there. And by the way, Scheana's just actively listening in the scene. She's like, when do I get to jump in? And Lala's like, yeah, and then we'll laugh about it. What a fucking dumbass. And then we get a Scheana laugh. Michelle laughs. Lala laughs. And Lala's like, that's what I do all the time with my ex, Randall. By the way, that should be the thing. If we agree to keep Lala on the Valley, we should include Randall on the Valley as well. Anyways, Jason's like, Danny, you want to have a talk real quick? Is that cool? Danny's like, okay, yeah, let's do it. So Jason's like, how's it going, man? It's going all right. How you doing? And Jason's like, I'm going to be honest, man. I feel pretty shitty lately. And he takes off his glasses. It does look rough. He's like, ever since our talk, man, I've been actually like in my head about it. I've been losing a little sleep, not eating a lot, just feeling pretty bad about it. Nia in a talking head goes, after hearing the way that Jason came at Danielle, it is so out of character for him. Honestly, the first thought that came into my mind was Janet has like sent Jason to be like her attack dog. Like, I feel like she is starting to target us for some reason. And I'm honestly starting to question like our friendship at this point. Okay, well, let me fix this for you. She's not your friend. Okay, moving on. Back to Jason. And Jason's like, first I want to say I'm sorry and I'm an asshole. This is different than the talking head, though, is sometimes you've got to let people make their own mistakes. That wouldn't make him an asshole, but this is somebody very regretful right here. And he's like, he pauses because he's like feeling emotional. He goes, I really value our friendship a lot. And Danny's like, so do I, man. So do I. And Danny, I was over the top, and I apologize for that. It was bad, and it's not generally the way I like to interact with people who I really respect and people who I have a lot of love for. And by the way, this is so coded. This is reality show coded, where it's like, normally, if the cameras weren't here, I wouldn't be doing this kind of stuff. But we are unfortunately getting paid for this, and I got to do these things, and I fucking hate it. Janet kind of likes it, and I do not. That's what that scene was reading. But Danny's like, well, I appreciate you saying that, man. It means a lot, and I forgive you like Jesus did. He didn't say the Jesus part. And Jason's like, honestly, you forgive me? Danny's like, yeah. That really means a lot to me, Danny. And then they just do that bro thing. Yeah, good, man, good. We talked about our feelings for a second, and it's awkward, man. It's awkward. Jason says he's relieved that Danny accepts his apology because he's somebody whose opinion I value, and I just value him as a person in general, and I think it's probably going to be good for our relationship in the long run. Well, we'll see how the rest of the season plays out, but I like this, right? And then he's like, I love you, man. I love you. We're still boys, man. Boys chat, dude. And he goes, it eats me up inside too, Jason. And Danny in his talking head goes, I'm very relieved because this is exactly what I wanted, that we could move past it. I'm glad to have my friend back. Oh, cute. Men expressing emotions. I love it. Let's topple the patriarchy. So now we have Lala's big scene. Jesse comes over to Lala, goes, hi, Lala. It's a really, very interesting. Hi, Lala. You look great. How far along are you? And Lala's like, well, I'm doing 3 weeks. Oh my God, that's amazing. I'm so jealous. I've always wanted more. I thought he was about to say, I've always wanted to be pregnant. As a man, we scientifically haven't figured it out yet. But he's like, I've always wanted more kids. And then Lala's like, well, here we go. Let her rip. Well, if it's any indication how you treat your baby mama, it's hard on both. Then he goes, it's hard on both sides, Lala. Trust me. And you only know one side of the story. And Lala goes, well, I tend to lean towards the chick, unless your name rhymes with Schmariana. She goes, especially when the man and the father of the child, Jesse, is calling her a whore and a slut. And Jesse just sits there stone-faced and he goes, yeah, well, that was a huge moment of weakness on my part. And Lala goes, did you say it in a group chat too to your guy friends? Lala, you do not have access to that guy's chat. You do not have a right to ask about it. And this is when we see Scheana dive into the scene. She's like, hey, it's me. I'm here. And it's really, Scheana just is staring like she's saw a ghost or something. And Jesse's like, that story about the boys chat is true? And Lala's like, let me ask you something. She knows the cameras are on. Let me ask you something. If Isabella came home and told you that her ex was treating her the way that you have treated your ex. Wait, first of all, Isabella is way too young to be dating Lala. That's a horrible example. But she goes, what would your reaction be? And Jesse's like, like I said, it was the stupidest. And Lala goes, I have a feeling you'd show up with a shotgun. And he's like, yeah, 100%. In a talking head, he goes, even the strongest man or woman, regardless of the growth that they are trying to find, can have moments of weakness. Lala on the scene goes, just say, you know what? I should probably be a little careful because I have a little girl who's impressionable and becomes attached, and she's my main focus. Don't talk about me like I'm not here, Lala. In a talking head, Jesse goes, calling Michelle a lying, cheating whore is a moment of weakness. But the truth is, she's a liar and a cheater, but she doesn't deserve to be called a whore. I mean, come on. He's horrible. That was a very toxically funny line. Lala goes, I have zero interest in this conversation. You're mean to my friend. I think you're toxic. I think you're a narcissist. And I'm happy I don't have to deal with you. There it is. There it is. And then Lala kind of storms off and Scheana just follows her. I'm like, Scheana, come on, man. Scheana has a magnificent braid on this. But anyways, Jesse's like, fantastic. Perfect. Well, this gave me a good laugh, so thank you for that. So there was Lala's big scene. What did you guys think? We come back from commercial. Zach has like a bloody shark bite wound that the makeup artist did. And Doute's touching it and has the blood on her finger. And she literally goes, this is what it looks like. So now Jesse Lally pulls Jason aside, and Jason's already frazzled from that makeup with Danny. And he's like, there's a conversation that's been happening, and it's something to do with you. And Kristen is going to bring up to you, and I don't want you to feel blindsided because she told me what it is. And Jason's like, why am I friends with these people? What are we doing here? Jason's like literally on it. I can't do it, man. What do we do? It's like, what did I do? I have done nothing to Kristen and Luke. In a talking head, he's like, I'm racking my brain. Like, what have I done? What's going on? Am I a racist Republican? Like, I don't understand what's going on here. So I just really want a tip. And so then Jason is panicking and he goes inside to Zach and he's like, hey, Zach, can I ask you something real quick? Is Kristen mad at me about something that you know of? And Zach's like, right now? And he's like, yeah. I don't know. I need a drink. And he walks away. And Jason's like, oh, shit. He says, I don't have anything to hide. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be something that actually happened or is it something that Kristen just sort of made up or has gone through multiple lines of telephone game. And so we see Jason like Goodfellas at the very end when Ray Liotta's like really paranoid and on. He's like, But Jason's like, am I going to be told I'm the Zodiac killer? And then we have like a little cute little edit where it goes black and white and there's a knife sound. Jason Caperna, the Zodiac, the Valley Killer. But he goes, I couldn't be. I wasn't born yet. And then he finally goes up to them. He goes, hey, Jesse told me that Kristen has something she wants to talk to me about. He's talking to Janet. And I'm like, what have me and Kristen even? And Luke comes to sit down and Jason's like, Luke, what's going on, man? Please take the Band-Aid off fast. What have I done? And Luke goes, well, I heard a rumor a year or so ago. Jasmine heard that you take off your ring sometimes at bars. And he goes, pfft. And Janet's like, oh, that old story. And he's like, never have I done that in my life. I'm so happy this is what it is, by the way. And Janet's like, yeah. He goes, I was so nervous at what you were going to tell me. And Jason in a talking head says, so it's not an allegation that I'm cheating. It's an allegation that I'm like trying to cheat and failing at it or something. It's not like there's some girl that's going to come out of the woodwork. It's just that I just go out and say like, time to go out and take off my ring. And Janet calls Jasmine, which by the way, yeah, a lot of things seem to be happening through Jasmine. She's going to be a bigger character next season, I predict. Because the only time I ever don't have my ring on is when I cheat. No, he goes, the only time I never have my ring on is because I forgot it at home. I've never taken it off and put it in my pocket. And so Jasmine finally comes over and Janet's like, Kristen said, and Jasmine goes, no, I know what you're talking about. I heard this like 2 years or so ago. Jason in a talking head says, I just had an argument with Danny, largely on Jasmine's behalf, to the point where I have to come to this party and make an apology with tears, you know? And then I find out after that Jasmine is starting rumors about me and talking about me in a negative way. It's surprising. Jasmine goes, well, to me, it's one of those rumors where it's like, why bring it up? I don't know. I don't think that's true, Jason. Maybe you did. I don't know. And Jason's like, Jasmine, you knew me when I was single. You knew when I was single, I didn't hit on anybody. Didn't Jason hook up with Scheana? Anyways, I like Jason. He goes, but Jason's like, now I'm hitting on people now that I'm married. I like Jason defending himself. He goes, I'm a really chill dude. And he's like, why is this coming now? And Doute goes, I said it out loud because I was super frustrated because I thought you were going after Daniel so hard. And Janet's like, okay, can I ask you this? Are you sorry that you blurted that out? Because you know us, you know Jason really well. Like, do you think he's a guy who goes to a bar and takes his ring off to like try to appear to be single? And Doute's like, I don't know. And Doute's like, but Jason, I haven't been friends with you guys in a while. And Jason's like, Jason's going after Danny. So what have I ever heard bad about him? And Luke goes, essentially. In a talking head, Doute goes, do I care if Janet and Jason are mad at me? Come on, not at all. I flow like the breeze. I do not care. She goes, I mean, it's pretty simple. Janet wants to go for Danny and Nia. I'm going to go for Janet. And it would be so badass if she had a switchblade when she said that. Anyways, Janet goes, to repeat baseless rumors that you heard is not cool. Which, by the way, though, Janet does seem to repeat a lot of baseless rumors herself or likes to toy with those. You know, I think that intrigues her, like a lot of us. But Janet goes, all I want to hear from you right now is I know that you know that Jason's a good guy and you're sorry for saying the rumor and that's it. And then it's over. In a talking head, Janet goes, Kristen absolutely has a history of doing this. It's anything that she does not want highlighted. she will throw whatever bullshit at the wall that she can so that we're not talking about the thing anymore. And Janet in the scene goes, it's wild that everybody was talking about it, but nobody ever once came to me or Jason. And Doute goes, I wasn't friends with you, so otherwise I would have told you, Janet. And Janet in a talking head. This is the part of the talking head where I'm like, oh, I don't know if this is going to age well. Janet says, look, Kristen may think she's Detective Doute, but I am 10 steps ahead of her always. There's never going to be a situation where she's telling me new information about my husband, but I know where he is at all times. And he's going on vacation. I put an air tag on him for safety. And I think she thought she really served with that line. And it was good, but it was, it was a little Erica Jane Beverly Hills. But also it's like, okay, so you're like, I completely cage my husband, which some of them do need caged. But the Doute of it all is like that talking head in particular. I just imagine Doute watching is like, oh, really? Like, I just hope that talking head does not come back to haunt Janet. Like, it's one of those things you're just so used to watching these shows where you clock these things where you're like, you can see 5 years ahead of now. And you're like, oh, please, please. Anyways, Doute goes, well, my brain was thinking, how dare you judge Daniel and Nia's relationship? And it frustrated me. And Janet gets up at this point. Doute's still doing amazing straw work with her drink. And now we cut to Scheana. Scheana finally has a line. She's like, these lines, she's pointing to her face, these lines are starting to stick. And Nia's like, I look like a glazed donut when I go to bed with all my layers of skincare. And then Brittany's like, hey, this is perfect. Scheana and Zach, can you guys come on over here? I wanted to tell this group something. Kristen, come here. And I was like, what's going on? What's happening? This is a bizarre thing of everybody like gathering everybody to tell this next part. And we see Brock. Brock's there. He's like, hey, brother, can I have a beer? Can you lob a beer over to old Brock? Jasmine's like, what do you think Brittany's going to say? And they're like, they don't know. And then Brittany's like, I met with Jax at a park because I wanted to let Cruz see him. And then he started saying that he wants to start fresh and that he wants to start dating me again from the beginning and blah, blah, blah. And by the way, it is funny. I'm looking at the shot and it's like, Janet, Jasmine, Melissa, Lala, Nia. And we have like a random girl in a neon tube top where I was like, wait, who's this girl? I'm like, is this Bailey from Summer House? Who is this girl just randomly in this shot? But Brittany's like, okay, but then Jax tells me that he rented a condo next door to Tom Schwartz. And Janet's like, starting now? Yeah, starting now. He signed a lease. And Janet's like, while you have this place? Yeah, while I have this place. And Jasmine's like, there's one step right there showing you he's not going to change. And Zach's like, period. Never. And Brittany's like, my biggest fear is he's going to try to just leave and stick me with that $14,000 a month mortgage. And all of everything is going to be on my back. And Janet's like, this is why you need to talk to a lawyer. And how dare he? We have a son. And Scheana's like, you got to, Scheana's like, you got to get a lawyer, Britt. You got to. I am next week in a talking head. She goes, I was always hopeful that being in the facility would make some kind of change. I thought that he was going to try to work on our marriage. Zach's like, I'm glad this happened because this pushes you to finally pull the trigger. But rehab absolutely did nothing for Jax. It just burns me up. He did not think about how this would affect me or his son whatsoever. We're done. We're done. And then Lala on the scene goes, congratulations. Congratulations, Brittany. And they all do like a little hand huddle and like cheers Brittany. I will say Brittany is obviously going through something tragic, but she's always like, she's like the happiest person through tragedy. She's like, yeah, yay me, Mama's beer cheese, woo. Okay, so our final scene is we go to the haunted Jax's Studio City bar. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of people. It doesn't seem like anybody's there, to be honest. Brittany and Jasmine do a shot. Brittany loves those shots. And Tom Schwartz comes there and he's like, what's up, everybody? Is this like a little group therapy session? Should we get tequila? How you living? And Brittany's like, stressed out to the max. And Schwartz is like, hey, me and you both for different reasons. Which, by the way, I wanted to extrapolate more on that. What are your reasons, Schwartz? Why are you stressed to the max? Maybe this was around the time Schwartz and Sanders was closing. Who knows? But Schwartz goes, I texted Jax today. AKA Mr. Work in Progress, his anthem, his mantra. Do you feel like he's actually putting in the work? He seems very at peace and serene. And Brittany gives a look like, are you kidding me? And Schwartz is like, via text he does. And Brittany's like, well, let me hear your side. What is he saying to you? Well, he's saying that it's done wonders for his mental health. And with his diagnosis and his new medication, he feels like he has a whole new perspective on life. And Brittany's like, well, I found out yesterday he has not paid our mortgage since May. Since May. He never asked me for help. He never told me anything. He never did anything. And then he goes and signs a lease to live in the apartment. And Schwartz is like, yeah. Both of our names are on that mortgage, by the way. Yeah. So he is actually fucking with my life and my son. And then Schwartz goes, and your credit. And any chance of me buying another house, anything. If he hasn't paid it since then, it could be up to like 100,000 by now. Schwartz is like, Jesus Christ. And like Schwartz, he looks like he's like starting to sweat. Is she going to ask me for money? He goes, this is so fucked. Oh. Brittany in a talking head goes, I could have been paying the mortgage and taking over that house. He could have moved out months ago. And instead, he decides to pull all this bull crap and not pay. And I'm just so hurt and upset. Jax is just ruining everything. He always have. I mean, this is not new. But I think Jax is one of those dudes also on top of, he just puts roadblocks up for himself everywhere. And it's not like that, you should forgive him for that, but that's what he does. I've done that myself. I just will make my own life harder. Brittany goes, as soon as he found out that he could live next door to you, he's like, oh my God, I'm not going to pay the bills. I got to live next to Schwartz. That's exactly what he was thinking. Not because of you guys. And Schwartz is like, I'm not in cahoots. What makes me sad is I have to lose my dream home. I have to lose my farmhouse dream home. I have to lose everything. And she starts tearing up, and Jasmine's comforting her, and Schwartz is like, he's going to have to man the fuck up and step up. And Brittany's like, but he's like wanting me to force me to sell my home now. And Schwartz is like, God damn. And Jasmine's like, I can't. I want to take all these fucking signs down. I want to take his picture down because they're at Jax's bar and put him in the trash. I am so mad right now. And Schwartz is like, no, you can't do that. And Schwartz is like, I'm going to grab a drink. I don't want to be a part of this. And Jasmine's taking things off the wall. And then Brittany's like, we're done. There's no Jax and Brittany anymore. And then we have this like flashback of all of these, like, I guess, cutesy Jax. Like, there's no more Jax and Brittany. And I think that the weird thing is, no more Jax and Brittany. Nobody ever was like, oh, Jax and Brittany, what a couple. Like, and that's the sad part of it, is that nobody was ever like, oh my God, that's real love. Like, maybe they told Brittany that, but that I don't believe was how the audience ever felt. So it's this thing where she's dealing with this extreme loss, and the audience is like, well, we've seen this all along. And that's got to be very, very sad, right? So we see all these flashbacks. We see Brittany in her Hooters uniform and like, my baby. And Jax going, I love being with you, and I plan on being with you for a very, very long time. And then we see the engagement of Neptune's nest at the beach where he's like, Miss Brittany Cartwright, will you please make me the happiest man in the world and be my wife? And Brittany crying, And then we see the wedding. We see poor Lance Bass officiating. And Jax, which we know he was like loaded that day because there's actually shots in the show of like lines of, blow on the table that they didn't edit out. And then we see Lisa at the wedding going, just one little thing. If you mess with my Kentucky muffin, I am coming for you. Which actually is so funny because Lisa doesn't talk to any of them anymore. She's like, I'm not going to talk to any of you if you touch the Kentucky muffin. And then we see just the recent fights from the past 2 seasons of The Valley after these beautiful montage of moments where it's like, I don't recognize you anymore. I'm taking Cruz, getting full custody and getting a restraining order against you. You're crazy. And then Brittany goes, there's nothing still to come on this season on The Valley. And we see that they travel to Hawaii. Jax didn't get to go to the Hawaii trip. So we see Michelle saying that she's going to work out even though she doesn't feel well, and all the girls laugh. We see Michelle's boyfriend saying Danny's the sweetest guy in the world when he's sober. And then we see Jax goes, guess what? So is Ted Bundy. So Jax already keeping the friends that he's made. We see Michelle being picked up by her boyfriend on the beach, and Jesse telling Jason, technically, Michelle and I are still together. And then we see Michelle say, he's trying to ruin me. And then we see Kristen Doute looking at a diagram of fallopian tubes and saying to have to swallow the word infertile, it's just not fair. And thank God Doute is pregnant and about to give birth. I mean, that's such a positive outcome of this story. And then we see the house being packed up, Jax's house and Brittany's, and Brittany going, Jax is in rehab right now. He gets out tomorrow. And then we see Brittany and Jax face off, and Jax is like, I just don't throw away 10 years like you do. You can get over it like that. And Brittany's like, I'm not over anything, obviously. Obviously, she's not. And then we see Danny have a scene with Jasmine going, I'm losing friends because of the things that you've said, the things that you're saying. And then we see Janet saying, do you want to be called a whore? Say somebody's going to beat your ass. And Nia says, you need to watch what you're saying and the way you're saying things to me. And Janet just gets up and goes, I'm good. And then we hear Zach scream, you know what that bitch has done. And then Janet talking to Doute saying, Jason would never do the things that you're accusing him of. And then Doute screaming at Janet, own your fucking words, bitch. And then Jesse Lally coming at Michelle's boyfriend saying, did you cross the line when I was married to Michelle? And then Zach screaming at Brittany, sometimes, Brittany, I need your help. That's all I want. That's still to come, folks. Anyways, what a day that we've had. I hope you enjoyed this. My mind was so loopy today, so I hope this made sense as much as the Valley can make sense to anyone. And I'll talk to you guys on Friday for the Summer House recap. Have a great Thursday. Bye.